just taking. Hello, everyone. That was the quietest hello I've ever offered on this stream. Whenever I'm editing the audio, it's always like, hello! And it looks like this in my audio editing software. Oh, wait, I can hear myself. That means I've got like YouTube or Twitter open or something. Hang on a sec. This is going to drive me insane.
I love the title. A mostly peaceful assassination attempt. Good one.
Where is this noise coming from? Thank you. Sorry, I'm only distracted because I'm trying to figure out how to cancel my voice from the echo. I'm gonna have to quit Firefox and start over again. Sorry, everyone. This is like the least interesting intro I've ever offered. Anyway, we're here. This is Where Are All the Women? I'm Megan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton, who I have here with me almost every week, except for last week. I was getting a stem cell treatment in my knee in Tijuana, which I think sent off some alarm bells for some people. But there are no alarm bells needed. I mean, I get it. I think getting any treatment, never mind something that's sort of being treated as experimental in America and Canada, it might sound sketchy, but it's really not sketchy.
Well, I think people are irrationally afraid of Tijuana too. That
Yes, definitely.
I think you're gonna wake up in a bathtub full of ice with no kidneys.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. That's exactly what they think. I mean, I wasn't wandering around Tijuana, and I'm sure I don't know Tijuana very well. I'm sure there's parts of Tijuana that are sketchy, but people are weird about Mexico in general, right? And like Mexico's a big place, and there are definitely some parts of Mexico that you should not go to, or you should not like drive through at night, especially alone. But you know, in Mexico, I always say like I feel safer here in Sayulita than I do in like Vancouver and San Francisco in a lot of ways. I mean, last time I was in Vancouver, I tried to take Emma, one of my dogs. Where is my other dog? I just realized she disappeared. I tried to take her out to pee in like a bougie neighborhood, and I got outside, and there were like two sketchy guys out there high on drugs, one looking like he was pacing murderously, the other yelling. There's always somebody camped outside behind the apartment building. This is my old apartment building. And I was like, like ran back inside because I used to be able to walk around that area and feel safe in the middle of the night. I used to be able to take my dog out to pee at 3 a.m. and feel relatively safe, but no longer. Here, like, I mean, I walk home at all hours and feel totally safe.
Sayulita, very safe.
Yeah, I mean,
safer than Albuquerque, New Mexico, which just got ranked the 20th most dangerous city in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
Mary Lou, I'm never coming to visit you again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's terrible. What other American cities were above Albuquerque on the list?
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look it up again. I just mostly caught the headline of the 20th most dangerous city in the world. But several years ago, we had friends who were getting married, and old friends of ours from years ago who used to live here and now live in Mexico City wouldn't come to the Albuquerque wedding. They wouldn't come to Albuquerque for this wedding because it was too dangerous. And they live in Mexico City, which I've always been propagandized to believe is a dangerous city.
Yeah, me too. When I went to Mexico City for the first time, I mean, up until like by the time I went, I had been convinced by enough people who went to Mexico City that it was awesome, and Mexico City is awesome. But you know, my whole life I thought, oh, you go to Mexico City and you immediately get robbed. Again, there's totally areas in Mexico City where you should definitely not go, but it's very easy to go to Mexico City and have a very nice, safe, even bougie, if you wish, time. Mexico City, yeah, is one of my favorite cities ever. I mean, it's and then people like Canadians, particularly Canadian feminists, will mock me and be like, "Oh, you just feel safe because you're white." And I'm like, "No, I feel safe because I live in a Mexican family neighborhood full of working class Mexicans." Like, what are you talking about?
If you know anything about the dangerous parts of Mexico and Central America in general, you would understand that being white does not make it safer. Like, I know.
That's who do you think gets mugged in Mexico and murdered in like, I mean, yeah, if you're fooling around with the cartel, then you're in a dangerous situation. But if you're just like hanging around in Mexico, if you're white, you're a target because you're assumed to be rich and because there's no accountability for you. You know, nobody, if you're traveling in Mexico and you're white, nobody local cares about you or knows who you are. Like nobody local is going to get in trouble for stealing from you or whatever. I mean, those are the biggest risks in Mexico are it's like theft. At least where I am. I mean, sometimes there are situations where people get caught in the crossfire. But again, that's something that happens to the turistas and white people. Also, I mean, I think that happened recently in Tulum or Cancun. Anyway, so I went to get a stem cell treatment in Tijuana, and it was a great experience. And if anybody's interested, it was totally painless. I don't think it's always painless for everybody. It depends on what you're getting. I just have an old knee injury, so it's just a shot to the knee, so it's pretty easy and simple and painless. And my knee hasn't been this good in years. I mean, right now the treatment takes, I don't know, 3 to 6 months to really work, but I got another shot, back in October. So it's been 6 months. And yeah, I mean, I'd almost forgotten that it was like it used to hurt every time I walked down the stairs or down a hill, and I couldn't do lunges, and like I could sort of do squats, but only to a certain extent. Like it was just everything was stressful, and every time I went to the gym it would swell up and I'd have to ice it every single time when I got home, and yada yada yada. And it still swells up sometimes, it still gets sensitive in certain situations, but it doesn't hurt when I'm operating like a normal person, i.e. going up and down the stairs or bending. So I'm pretty pleased. Brown Coat Serenity says, was it expensive? It totally depends on what treatment you're getting, the cost. I'll put the link to their website in the live chat here. And they have a price list. And definitely tell them that I sent you. And it's, it is expensive, but it's like a much better way to treat a variety of chronic issues and injuries than going on pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life or getting a surgery. So you should take that into account when you're thinking about costs, because you can get, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 tops of these treatments and actually, heal your problem and resolve your problem. Or you can, go to the doctor and they can prescribe you a bunch of painkillers for the rest of your life that will destroy your liver and who knows what else. So I mean, yeah, and it's risk-free. There's nothing that's the worst that could happen via this treatment is that it doesn't resolve your problem. But yeah, I've had very positive experiences, and a ton of people that I know have had very positive experiences too. I mean, all the UFC guys get stem cell treatments all the time for their wide variety of injuries. Obviously Rogan get stem cell treatments pretty regularly and recommended them to me also. So anyway, yeah, it's CBS or cbstemcells.com, but I put that link in the live chat here.
Where
anyway,
do the stem cells come from? Are they your stem cells? Are they embryonic stem cells from aborted fetuses?
Not aborted fetuses. They're from, so after the baby is born, then they take the stem cells from the placenta and umbilical cord, and they're from women/babies who've been tested for all sorts of, I don't know, cancers and genetic things and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's after the baby's born. They're not from aborted babies. They're not, it's not nutrients that are being taken from the baby while they're still in the womb. It's after birth. If you get some, so as I understand it, you can get stem cell treatments in the US. I think they're way more expensive and they're way less effective because they're stem cells from you. And your stem cells are going to be way less effective as like, a 40 something, 50 something year old than from placenta / umbilical cord where they're fresh. And, because how like if you chop off the arm of a baby, it grows right back. Works like that, right?
Right. That's exactly how it works.
But babies, like the younger you are, the better capacity you have for healing.
Right.
Is the issue. And also I think getting stem cells taken from yourself, it comes out of your bone marrow, and that's an extremely painful process. So the whole thing is pretty brutal comparatively, and it doesn't work as well, and it's more expensive. It's easy. Like if you're in the US, getting to Tijuana is super easy. You don't even have to stay overnight in Tijuana if you don't want to. You can just go to San Diego, and they have these medical buses that go across the border to take you to the medical clinic, and you get your treatment, and then you can take the bus back and then go back to your hotel in San Diego and fly home or drive home depending on where you are. So yeah, the clinic was really nice. Anyway, I highly recommend it. I think it's great. And I haven't encountered any major ethical issues with this process in as far as what I've asked and learned about. So I feel pretty okay about it.
The whole issue of biopiracy of women and immediate cord clamping and selling the placentas and the women and the babies not getting any of the money. But that's a whole other episode we could do on the whole placenta industry and how none of the money goes to the women or children. And women don't even realize their placentas are being sold. Those are probably Mexican placentas, but here...
These women do know, because I think they have to agree to it beforehand and sign things. I don't know if they might be compensated. I'm not sure.
In the US, like most placentas, women are told it's biomedical waste, and really they're being harvested. The Wharton's jelly is being harvested. The amniotic sacs are being harvested. The stem cells are being harvested, and none of the money is going to the women or the babies. Suzanne Forbes Vierling talks about it, of how at the end of the whole process, one placenta turns into like $200,000, and none of it goes to the woman who made the placenta or the baby who didn't get their own stem cells because the cord was cut so early. But that's a whole other, a whole other thing. I don't want to like harsh the excitement about the stem cells, And
that's okay. I'm going to leave them in my knee. So
yeah, you can't take them out. Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, that's where I was last week, and that's why we weren't here. But we're here now, and I'm feeling very overwhelmed about everything that's going on. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot. So I was born and raised in Butler, Pennsylvania, where a place where nothing ever happens, where this assassination attempt against Trump just happened. So it feels really close, literally close to home to me, that this happened on the farm show grounds in Butler, Pennsylvania, where, I mean, I lived there I moved to New Mexico after college. Butler was my home through like age 22.
Yeah, that would feel really weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I know so many people who were at that rally. Butler is a Trump town. It's a very working class, very poor area. I think it has a 30% poverty rate. Has never really recovered from the death of the steel industry. And I read one statement that, Trump got 65% of the vote in that county in the last election, but that's not true. Trump won by 65 points. He got close to 90% of the vote in that county. Like it's Trump country.
Wow.
Yeah. So this would happen there is very interesting. I feel like it just feels really close to home, literally. And it's fishy as all get out, right? Like what a situation. How did this happen? There's so many questions I have about this assassination that are not being answered in the press or by the government.
I know. I mean, my first reaction, I am right now feeling very judgmental towards the people who are saying that the assassination was fake and that Trump, faked it for, to gain popularity. I mean, that would be a great stunt had it been faked, because that is what happened. Like I think for sure this has turned people in his favor. It's turned me in his favor. I was like, okay, well, because I had been planning but procrastinating to register to vote in America for the first time, and I was planning to vote for RFK Jr. I mean, things can always change. So I was like, I'll probably vote for RFK Jr., but of course you see what happens. And now I'm going to register to vote, and I think I'm going to vote for Trump.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
So now everything that everyone's been saying about me has come true.
You're a Trumper now. I had a fascinating psychological process around it. And I think up until maybe this assassination attempt, I had never really seen the Trump appeal. I saw so many people fall for him, and I knew he's an amazing showman and a con man, and a lot of people love a showman and a con man and a performer. But
I don't. And
no,
you probably don't either. Yeah.
No, but I was very impressed with his performance. It stirred something in me.
I know.
Because I've been so disheartened by understanding that our current president, has rapidly accelerating late stage dementia, and that is very distressing to me as an American. This is who has the nuclear codes, and I find it very demoralizing. So I've been in that place of just really being bummed out about the current president, and then watching Trump get grazed by a bullet by someone who's trying to kill him, and rise up with that fist in the air and blood on his face and say fight. I fell for it. I was like, yeah, that's the president I want. USA, like that's the energy I want in our country. I don't want a senile, decrepit vibe of, our figurehead in charge can't string a sentence together, let alone like dodge a bullet and come up yelling fight. I fell for his showmanship. I'm like, this guy has amazing instincts. He knows how to work a crowd. That was really impressive to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like anyone who wasn't impressed and inspired by that is missing some kind of chip inside. I mean, I understand why people hate Trump. That doesn't baffle me, because I once hated Trump. And since I stopped hating Trump, I was not, I didn't like his personality. What changed is that I thought, he might be a good president for America, given the options. And I realized that he'd been lied about a lot. And I determined that the other side was much worse and much more dangerous. But it wasn't like I was enamored by the guy. But, that response was very inspirational. I watched the video over many times, and it made me feel very emotional. And I think the first time I heard or maybe saw a clip, I thought what all these people were saying, which was that I was like, oh, maybe this was fake. Maybe this is a setup to gain popularity for Trump and for the Republicans. But then I watched the video over again. And immediately when I watched it over again, I was like, no, this reaction is real. And that would be a crazy / impossible thing to fake.
A man is
too
dead.
Dangerous. Yeah. And a man is dead. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 other people are still in, I believe, critical condition that, they're greatly wounded. I don't think this was fake. I have questions about Secret Service complicity in this, or at the very least extreme incompetence that this could happen. I mean, the guy was, multiple people saw this man on the roof with a gun and nothing was done. And now the head of the Secret Service says she didn't put Secret Service agents on that roof because it was a sloped roof and it would be too dangerous for them, which is crazy.
People saw this kid wandering around looking at the roof and being weird even before he got up on the roof. And then once he was up on the roof, a whole bunch of people saw him up there and reported him to the cops. And they were like, there's a guy up on the roof with a rifle, and they did nothing. And I also just saw that the kid's parents had reported him missing before this happened. So
they reported him missing. Like,
Thomas Crook's parents called the police to report their son was missing a few hours before he attempted to assassinate Trump.
Well, see, that just makes the whole thing weirder because he's a 20-year-old man. Like, why would they report him missing? Like, 20-year-olds go out and do their own thing. Were they concerned? They said this was the father's AR, that it was his gun that the kid was using. Maybe they were suspicious that he'd taken the gun and had left.
I wonder if there's more information to this story. I just saw something, I think, on Fox. There probably isn't more information than that, but there's just so much weirdness. I thought, my first thought after my initial reaction, and I watched the video a few times and I started reading about what happened, was that this was intentional and planned by like the deep state / the Democrats to take him out, because they just couldn't fathom that level of incompetence on the part of the Secret Service.
I think that's very much a possibility. I believe Kennedy was killed by the deep state. I think, I don't know for certain any more than anyone else does, but I think that it's very clear that there are many forces in power in the US that hate Trump and want to take him out. Look at what they've done to this man. Look at the dirty tricks that they've played. Look at the stupid show trial where he received felony conviction for basically, misaccounting something. Like, he paid off a porn star, he paid hush money, and they hit him with felonies for the way he accounted for it. It's, they have been going after him everywhere they can. They got FISA warrants to spy on his team. They suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story. They have been calling him Hitler, trying to gin somebody up into killing him. It's absolutely plausible that this was a planned execution.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the Supreme Court just gave presidential immunity, and everyone's been talking about how presidents have immunity if they assassinate their opponents. Like, that just happened like a week and a half before this assassination attempt.
Crazy. Yeah, I was just trying to read more about this kid being reported missing. But I mean, it's, a lot of people have been screaming at me in the comments on Instagram after I posted what I wrote about the situation on Substack, saying that, because essentially I was saying, the left has not only condoned but encouraged and supported political violence against their political opponents for a number of years now.
They have supported violence against you, Megan.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I know better than anyone else. I've been threatened and targeted for like a decade now over nothing,
by the
saying
left.
that men aren't women by the left. And and we saw what happened during BLM. There was so much violence, there was so much looting, there was so much destruction. We've seen the behavior of the Free Palestine people who also have been violent, who also have advocated all sorts of violence. And they always claim that they're doing it in defense of the marginalized. They always claim that their violence is because they're fighting some kind of genocide. This was the purpose, I think, of calling Trump, a Nazi and Hitler and a racist and so on and so forth. They're making excuses to vilify him and, endorsing political violence in some way, I think, by saying these things, because if he's literally Hitler, several other people have made this point, but if he's literally Hitler, the question has been asked many times, what would you do if you could go back and kill Hitler, thereby preventing the Holocaust? What would you do?
Yeah, it's generally accepted that it would be okay to kill baby Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Hitler, the Hitler comparison absolutely opens him up to what would be considered legitimate assassination.
Yeah. And so, there's been people, again, mostly radical feminists, actually, in my comments on Instagram saying things like, the shooter was a Republican himself. Like, it wasn't Democrats that killed Trump. And I don't really care what the politics of the shooter are. I think if this lone young man was actually the shooter and he did this on his own, he's clearly a mentally disturbed kid. And, by all accounts, he was a loner and he was bullied, and, his parents were clearly concerned about him. But his dad was a registered libertarian. His mother was a registered Democrat. The kid was a registered Republican. I don't know that this was political. I don't know that this kid was like, Trump is I don't know, a Republican, so I'm going to kill him. But it's the argument that like this kid was a Republican or these people are just as violent. I don't know. I just think like the left is very delusional, and they lie to themselves so much about their actions. And it's weird to watch people who openly advocate violence against their political enemies continue to pretend that Trump is the biggest danger to America and that Trump supporters are the biggest danger to America. And they still have continued to do that. They haven't lowered the heat on their rhetoric at all on social media. It's tough because there's been this big debate on X today because libs of TikTok has been posting photos and information about all these people who have said, you shouldn't have missed, or, or, next time aim better, that kind of thing, or, like, too bad you missed. And in many cases, getting these people successfully fired, which I don't really like, in part because I think that it's hypocritical, but also because I think it's quite unproductive. Like, I don't think that it's going to change people's minds or stop the rhetoric. Maybe somebody won't post that on Facebook, I guess, but
it'll just make people hate the right even more and make people dig in further in their partisanship. It's you're never going to convince people you're the good team if you're taking their job away for disagreeing with you. That's how I ended up radicalized against the left, was exactly that behavior. And what I've said for years watching this on the left is the people in power behave like the people in power. And we'll see a swing toward pretty awful behavior if the right takes power again. Partisanship makes people terrible.
But yeah, and I mean, we can even see that right now. I mean, people who are ideologues and they do treat everybody else as though they're enemies. I don't think that there is going to be a bunch of unity coming from die-hard religious conservatives. You know, like obviously we see Matt Walsh having a hissy fit on X because Amber Rose was allowed to talk for 5 minutes at the Republican National Convention, and she's not a true Republican. And has she converted? Is she like a good Christian now? You know, it's not, I'm not like invested in, I'm not particularly impressed by Amber Rose in any way, but I do think that like what she was talking about was just the fact that she was wrong, you know, that she thought that Trump was the bad guy, that Trump was a racist. And she looked into it and she discovered that that wasn't true and that she'd been lied to a bunch about Trump. And so she changed her mind and now she's a Trump supporter. So to me, I think she's an asset to their camp. And, you know, I think that what's happening now is that people like me, but people are a lot more comfortable coming out and saying that they support Trump. Whereas before, a lot of people would have felt scared to say that out loud, never mind scared to vote for Trump. So I think that that's a net good. And the fact that she was a stripper, or she's a slut in Matt Walsh's words, that she, you know, like I wrote a bunch of blog posts about her because she was doing these stupid slut walks back in 2015. You know, I've been as critical as Amber Rose and her ilk as anyone, not from a Republican religious perspective, from a feminist perspective. And I think that it's good that she changed her mind, and it, you know, it puts you in a vulnerable position to change your mind and to come out and say so, because you might be attacked in exactly the way that Matt Walsh attacked her. Never, and from the left as well, of course, because they'll call her a traitor. They'll more likely say that she's been brainwashed. You know, you've been brainwashed by the MAGA cult rather than brainwashed by their cult.
I thought it was a brilliant move. I think that watching what's happening to the Republican Party is part of that. My response to it is part of my newfound appreciation of what an incredible salesman and showman Trump is, and how he does give the people what they want. And it was brilliant to put her up there. She's gorgeous. She was polished. I mean, she just looked stunning. She was articulate. Her speech was very relatable and very, like, it evoked kind emotions in a sense of like, you belong here. It was done really well. And she's a multiracial woman of color. You know, she falls under that. I think it was brilliant. And I think that the Matt Walshes and their purity tests are, I think that's foolish. I think that, and I mean, Matt Walsh is he's just a jerk. He's so, I hope that watching what happened in the comments, I hope that's indicative of people realizing that, you know, he's not the spokesman for, you know, the counter resistance to the left right now. But I also, you know, look at what happened when Harmeet gave the prayer. That was more distressing to me than Walsh's response to Amber Rose, where all of these right-wing men were saying she was invoking Satan, she was demonic. How dare they let a woman cover her head and say a non-Christian prayer? That was distressing to me, but also I think it showed a lot about the Republican Party, that this is not a Christian country. We have the First Amendment, which says the government shall not establish any religion. People are free to worship how they want here. And I
Yeah.
think for the Republicans and Trump to be branding themselves as the defenders of civil rights and the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, that was a brilliant move to have Harmeet deliver that prayer.
Yeah. Yeah. She's amazing. And I thought that that was great as well. And yeah, and thank you for pointing out, because I hadn't seen that until I saw your comment in my mentions on X that she had given that speech. But yeah, she was the one, her firm defended me against Twitter when they banned me in 2019 for saying that men aren't women and for calling Jonathan Yaniv he. But yeah, I mean, I'm like, you're not helping Matt Walsh. Like, this is what you want is not what America wants. This is not, like, you're a fringe minority. Most Americans don't want to take away women's right to vote. Most Americans don't want to make all abortion illegal in all circumstances. Most Americans don't hate women and think that they should be in the kitchen because they're not fit for public life. He's a devout Catholic, right? Yeah.
Right. He's a devout Catholic.
I mean, I think that, Trudeau, for example, talks a good game about diversity in Canada, but America is an extremely diverse country, and I think that Americans are genuinely proud of that. They don't want mass immigration. That's often what Trudeau is talking about when he's talking about diversity. He's not, talking about genuine diversity. He's talking about representing various colors of the rainbow. But America is for everyone. It's for people of all races and religions. And what he said about Amber Rose, like, it's like, do you think he's okay? So he tweeted, the RNC gives a primetime speaking slot to a pro-abortion feminist and self-proclaimed slut with a face tattoo whose only claim to fame is having sex with rappers. Truly an embarrassment. Not a single voter will be mobilized with this person. Does he think that a single voter will be mobilized by him? Exactly. The only people mobilized by Matt Walsh are people who are already like Matt Walsh. So of course they're voting Republican. So and yes, I do think that Amber Rose will mobilize voters and inspire young people to change their minds or look into what's being said about Trump more deeply. Like, it has sex with rappers. It's like, you sound like such a nerd. Like, this is not the vibe, Matt Walsh.
No, he's just a chauvinist. I think that he woke up some people about the trans issue just because he had a platform. But I think people are sort of growing to see what a rigid ideologue he is. Did you see the video, the rap video that Amber Rose and a male rapper put out after her speech on the convention floor? It's going around on TikTok. I need to send it to you. I don't know enough about rap. I'm like stuck in the 90s in my music tastes. But it was brilliant and it was really polished, and it was two black rappers singing about Team Trump and what they want for America. I'm like, this is going to bring people on board. It was charismatic. It was catchy. And that was the piece, seeing that and seeing how Trump had said, I'm going to call for unity after this assassination attempt. That woke up the tentacle of conspiracy in me that maybe Trump planned this assassination. But I think he's been planning a more unified approach with this is the first time I have found a political nomination convention to be interesting. They've had interesting people speaking and saying interesting, unique things. And honestly, it's been a pretty diverse cast of characters up there on that stage.
Yeah, well, Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters, I thought that was amazing. Like, I thought that was very revolutionary. I mean, it was the first time anyone from the Teamsters had spoken at the Republican National Convention.
That is huge.
And he was attacked by the Teamsters. Like the Teamsters Twitter account, whoever runs the Teamsters Twitter account attacked him and said, hold on, just let me find their little tweet. It's deleted now. But they said unions gain nothing from endorsing the racist, misogynistic, and anti-trans politics of the far right. No matter how much people like Senator Hawley attempt to tether such bigotry to a cynical pro-labor message. The message this sends to Teamsters of color, Teamster women, and LGBTQ Teamsters is that they are not welcome in the union unless they surrender their identity to a new kind of anti-woke unionism. You won't unite a diverse working class by scoffing at its diversity. I mean, totally clueless, but this is exactly, it sounds like the Canadian unions. That's the message we would have heard from any Canadian union. But, you know, Canada is so out of touch with the working class, and America is obviously catching on. The Democrats aren't, and the left aren't, but Trump has caught on, and the Republicans have caught on, and the apolitical have caught on to the fact that the Democrats have abandoned the working class, and that, you know, they are not speaking to the working people anymore. And the one that is speaking to the working people is Trump, and that, you know, people should have, and I think a lot of people did learn that message in 2016. But, you know, I think it was bold of him to do that. And I think that it was amazing that he was invited to speak there, and he didn't come there with some big pro Trump message either. You know, he didn't come and say rah 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 Trump. He said, well, you know, whatever you think about Trump, like him or don't like him, we're here, and we're here for the working people, and, you know, if this party is going to support the working people, then we'll support this party. I'm not quoting him, but yeah. I mean, why? This is what I've been saying about the Canadian left and the NDP and the Canadian unions for some time now. Is like, why would you continue to support and tether yourself to a party that disrespects you, that ignores you, that vilifies you as racist and misogynist and anti-trans, which is what they did to the convoy and the truckers, of course. Right. I mean, what are the Democrats doing for working people? What is the Liberal Party doing for working people? What is the NDP doing for working people?
They're forcing them to use preferred pronouns, and they're making them get vaccines.
Yeah. I mean,
that's to me, like, there are certain issues I'm so angry about that I can never, ever align with the Democratic Party or mainstream liberals again over them. And those are the issues of forcing women to call men she and her, and forcing us to accept these men in our spaces, and what they're doing to incarcerated women, and pediatric mastectomies, and the destruction of women's sports. That is the Democratic Party platform. Like that is what they stand for, is the destruction of women's rights on the altar of gender. And as someone who was declared essential, meaning expendable, during the pandemic, and who worked every day and had COVID before the vaccine came out, and then was told I had to get the shot to continue to accept insurance because of the federal government connection to all of the insurance plans under the Biden administration, I can never forgive these people. I'm the completely anti-woman and anti-working class. What they did to essential workers are workers. That was the working class that was keeping the world together, while the laptop class sat at home.
The truckers were essential workers because they were keeping the economy going.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like they were the ones who were keeping everything running. Yeah, and this is how they treat them? Disgusting.
It's totally disgusting. Yeah, I think that the Republican Party under Trump right now, uniting around Trump, is doing some really brilliant marketing. I'm cynical enough to not, I'm not going to get too excited. Do I think Trump's a great person? Do I think he actually shares my my class interests. I don't know.
Do we think he might screw everyone over? I don't know. I don't think it's good to put all your faith or trust into a politician ever. I mean, I think we should always remain skeptical of politicians. I mean, particularly politicians who've gotten to this level. I mean, people who have political careers to the point where they've made it this far have had to have some shady dealings, is my opinion.
Totally. But the fact that the establishment has
and be narcissists.
Absolutely. That they have worked so hard to destroy them makes me wonder what he's doing that's a threat to the establishment.
I know. Like, it's not that he's a racist. That's not why the deep state's after him and going to this extent to destroy him.
Right.
To, try to put him in jail. And, like, he must be very threatening to them.
And I think the country was more stable and more economically prosperous and just generally in better shape under Trump than it has been under Biden. And people say, that's because there was a pandemic we had to recover from. But it's because the Biden administration is weak and the world is in chaos because of it. And Trump was a stronger leader. I don't think the world would be as unstable as it is right now if Trump were in power. And at this point, honestly, I'm at the place where I would prefer to vote for the person who's going to lower my taxes.
Yeah, I think that most people would. And who are going to keep men out of women's sports. And who are going to keep, like, American industry in America, which provides jobs for Americans, and not give away all the jobs to immigrants or, give away all the jobs to other countries by shipping industries out of the country. I mean, that's, if you want to talk about what's good for the economy and what's good for working people.
Absolutely. It's been I've just been very interested in what it has stirred. And I know I'm being played. I know it's all a show, but it's like, okay,
it's a very entertaining show.
It's very entertaining. And the vibe has shifted. I like this proud to be an American vibe. I think that's good for our country. I don't think it's good for our country, for the majority of our young people to hate the country.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. I mean, it's destroying the West, and it's making the West vulnerable. All this, like, allegiance to Islam and to terrorists is actually quite dangerous. I mean, people should realize how great the West is comparatively compared to, all of history and to many other parts of the world. And they should feel grateful and privileged. And so they should be, chanting USA, USA, USA. They should feel protective over their country, lest their country is destroyed. And, that's a real possibility. I wanted to actually just read this quote from Sean O'Brien's speech because I was paraphrasing very badly. So he said, "We are not beholden to anyone or any party. We will create and work with a bipartisan coalition ready to accomplish something real for the American worker. And I don't care about getting criticized. It's an honor to be the first Teamster in our 21-year history to address the Republican convention. The left is no longer the party of the working people. The working class is standing up for their interests and will not remain loyal to elites who condescend to them, insult them, ignore them, and abandon them." Oh, sorry, this is my quote. The bottom part is my quote.
Okay.
But, he said, like, I said the part about the left is no longer the party of the working people. Sorry, I just kept reading. But, the fact that he said we're not beholden to anyone or any party, like, this is, we're going to work with whoever is supporting working people. And this is, like, the Democrats and the Canadian left as well, the NDP and the Liberal Party, they're so entitled to people's vote. that they don't think that they have to work for people's vote. And so they should lose people's vote. They should lose people's support. Like, the working class doesn't owe you anything. People of color don't owe you anything. Women don't owe you anything. We don't have to vote for you because you keep throwing abortion at our faces.
Right. And that's all they've got. And then all of these unfounded statements like Trump will be a dictator. Well, he wasn't a dictator last time. Or the crazy mind virus of believing January 6th was like an actual insurrection and an attempted coup. People are so crazy about.
People are crazy about January 6th.
Yeah. And
it was an insurrection. It was an insurrection. It's like, okay, well, I guess you can cling to that forever and then use that as an excuse to wish Trump dead. That's what you're doing now.
The National Guard quelled the civil unrest that was happening that day. Trump was still the president. He was literally the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military. He could have told the National Guard not to stop the unrest and let a coup happen, and he didn't. It clearly was not a coup attempt. It was not an insurrection. A lot of people legitimately believe we don't have free and fair elections in the United States. As someone who lived through the 2000 election with Bush and Gore, I am one of those people. I'm old enough to remember when questioning the legitimacy of the U.S. electoral process was a left-wing position. It's just so crazy. People have a right to question what seems fishy about an election. It seemed like Trump was going to win, I think, Pennsylvania and Michigan in particular, and it didn't make sense when all these hundreds of thousands of Biden votes came in, and it's never been properly explained to people. And we don't have secure voting. We have these hackable voting machines. People have a right to question that. And I think people behaved poorly on January 6th, and there were laws that were broken, but I don't think that they were a threat to the United States government.
I don't think it was a threat to anything. What were they going to do? How were they going to overthrow the government? I think it was silly. And as far as I can tell, there was a whole bunch of people who were being peacefully escorted around.
Yeah.
I don't buy that there weren't plants there made to look like things were happening that weren't really happening.
And people believe these lies. They believe that police officers were killed by the insurrectionists. The only person who died in that civil unrest was a woman who was shot by Capitol Police in the chest in the Capitol. I mean, there was a woman killed by the security forces. There weren't any police. There weren't any deaths or violence that happened on the part of the people who were, the Trump supporters in there. It's so crazy that what people believe about that, but they've been propagandized so hard. It just makes me so distressed that people keep bringing that up. I wonder if they'll stop after this assassination attempt, stop being so fixated on that. But that's what they used to say. He tried to steal an election. It's like, well, he didn't. Biden was inaugurated. Trump didn't prevent that from happening. Why would another 4 years be worse than the 4 years we already had?
Just as an aside, I was trying to, in the live chat post, because people were talking about Jon Stewart. Megan had said, maybe the left's downfall is because Jon Stewart left The Daily Show. He was a USA-loving, normal, rational lefty, and maybe he could have kept the extremists in check. And then somebody said, Jon Stewart skews me out. He didn't say anything about all the crazy stuff until it was safe to do so, which I completely agree with. So screw him. She says, Abby here is saying he waited until it was safe to speak up after supporting all of it for a while. He made fun of all the conservatards, and now he's suddenly skeptical of trans and vaccines. I totally agree. Screw you. Right. But I was trying to post in the live chat, I can't stand Jon Stewart, and YouTube rejected my comment. I'm like, I am in charge of this live chat. And then they said, try changing it a bit. And then I tried to post, I don't trust Jon Stewart. at
Did
all.
they,
And then YouTube rejected my comment again. YouTube is not allowing me to criticize Jon Stewart, so I don't trust
gosh.
Jon Stewart. I wonder if that'll get me demonetized. Why is YouTube
Yeah.
invested in protecting Jon Stewart? Anyway,
Back during the Bush administration, I made the mistake of believing Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert were critical of power, but then it became clear they were just blind partisans, that they were partisans who couldn't apply the same lens to whoever was in power. They would only criticize the side they weren't on, and that's their downfall. I mean, Stephen Colbert used to actually be funny, and now I will never stop being nauseated every time I think about his vaccine dance that he did, which was, did you see that?
Pathetic. Yeah.
It was so disgusting, to the tune of tequila, people dressed up like hypodermic syringes, and it was so nauseatingly bad. He's just a blind partisan, which makes him not, just unworthy of respect.
So what do you think about all these people who are posting, who are joking about, the shooter shouldn't have missed, or Destiny, I can't, why do I have to call a grown man Destiny? His name is Stephen Bennell, I believe. But anyway, he's what's going on, Angelita? Can you hear her barking?
Yeah, I can.
What's happening? Come here, babe. Come here. It's okay.
Destiny is positioning himself to be the lefty edgelord when the power shift happens. Don't you think so? Like, that's what he's vying for.
Well, he wanted to get out of just being a Twitch streamer. Like, he was just, because his audience, he was making millions of dollars off these little boys, these nerds who were enamored with him because he is also a nerd, but he was a nerd who got to have sex with a hot chick. So they were like, oh no, we're not nerdy losers who are just sitting on our computer 24/7 and watching some guy stream video games. We're engaged in important political debates, and we're actually cool and interesting, like this cool and interesting guy. And he's just a total dork too, and a loser, and he knows it. And anybody who's made their money off of or become famous off being a Twitch streamer knows that they're not a respectable person. That is not respectable that you got rich off of streaming yourself playing video games to a bunch of teenage boys.
I know, it's such an odious phenomenon.
Yeah, so I think he was trying to branch away from that into respectability, but he can't, because he's not respectable or intelligent, and he's an egomaniac.
Yeah, right. I agree with all of that. I think he's going to rise up again as the lefty edgelord whenever the right is in power and people are getting tired of their authoritarianism, which is,
people keep platforming him, which is weird. He gets platformed and then embarrassed, and everybody seems to hate him, but he still has been on Piers Morgan like a couple of times now. He was on Piers Morgan recently defending his comments, which, he mocked the guy who was shot and killed.
I know.
At the Trump rally, who was a father who threw himself in front of his wife and daughter to protect them, and he died. And Destiny went on Twitter and made fun of him and refused to take it back, apologize. And all these people are saying he's evil and odious. And yeah, he is evil and odious, but he's also he's always been like this. Like, it's not, I feel like we're giving him too much credit being like, you're a bad person. He's just a miserable narcissist. Like, I think he hates himself. Who behaves like that? Who says things like that? Okay, maybe you're trying to make money. You have lots of money.
Yeah.
Why can't you? He's an Adderall addict. Maybe he's having some drug-induced
and a video game
meltdown.
Addict. Yeah, video games addle your mind and
probably a porn addict.
He's probably a porn addict. It's not good to hang out in front of a screen all day with high adrenaline while you're taking stimulants. But I am a free speech absolutist, and I think people have a right to say odious things. And I completely disagree with people on the right or the conservative side rising up and doing exactly what they have been critical of engaging in cancel culture of people who post things they politically disagree with. I
don't like it at all.
Yeah, it's not.
And
okay.
I mean, of all people, I should like it. Like I posted on Twitter saying, stop harassing people and getting people fired from their jobs. This is hypocritical and it doesn't help. And I've been getting all these comments from people saying, no, but Megan, they've been doing this to us for years. And I'm like,
I know,
yes,
right?
They've been doing this to me for years. I get it. And I want their karma to come for them too. But this is childish and it's hypocritical. And I think it's one of the people that Libs of TikTok posted about that they got fired was a guy who worked at Tupelo Honey Southern Kitchen and Bar. He had commented on Facebook saying "so close." Like, yeah. I mean, these people are shitty people. They are, but like, I don't see how getting them fired from their jobs helps. And the excuse of, well, they did it to us first. Like, are you 10?
Yeah. I think, and also free speech means free speech for the people you disagree with. That is what makes it an amazing right to have in a culture. And if your belief in free speech only extends to the people who agree with you, you're not actually a proponent of free speech. And if the only time you're upset about free speech being restricted is whenever it's against your side, you're a hypocrite. It's just dangerous. And
don't you think that maybe you could have said something stupid like that on social media at some point? Like back when I was a Marxist, like I'm sure that, I wouldn't have put it past myself to say something like that about my political enemy because I thought that whoever was right-wing was so horrid and misogynist and dangerous that it's justifiable for me to say, well, maybe they should die. Like, I don't know, why are you pretending that you're so pure, that you're incapable of saying something like that? And do you think that you should have been fired from your job and posted on social media and doxed to millions of people? One of the other guys was a firefighter.
That's the guy who was killed.
No, one of the guys that Libs of TikTok posted about who she got him fired. So he had posted, too bad it didn't hit him square. And then I believe, he resigned. So he was harassed to the point where he decided to resign from his position as a firefighter. There was a teacher who has the most embarrassing profile pic I've ever seen in my life. There's a black and red circle around her face that says "Justice for George Floyd." And then she's wearing also a red and black mask. And Superintendent Ryan Walters investigated and said, I'll be taking her teaching certificate. I mean, she looks really... I really don't like her. She posted, what did she post here? I wish they had a better scope.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes on and on. There were a whole bunch of these people, and a bunch of them, one woman got fired from her job at Home Depot.
So much more than platforming Amber Rose or having Harmeet cover her head and say a Sikh prayer, this behavior turns people against conservatives. This is exactly what is going to keep people from wanting to join your movement. It's horrible behavior. Who among us hasn't said something rash?
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have.
Well, I could tell you a story of my background. I mean, I have mellowed out a lot in age, but when I was a teenager growing up in Butler, Pennsylvania, I was on the rifle team in high school, and I was actually a very good shot. I had a gun in
Wow,
my
I don't know.
locker
I don't think I knew that about
when I was
you.
on the rifle team. Yeah,
Learning
I
new
had a gun
things
in my
about you.
locker. A lot of people brought guns to school back then. It was interesting that we
What?
didn't have school shootings. Yeah. So Butler
It is
was,
interesting that you didn't have school shootings, even though everybody had guns, hey?
everyone had guns. Like everybody's family had guns.
I'm being serious, though. I mean, people like to be like, it's because of all the guns, but it's
Well,
not
what we
because of all
didn't-
the guns. Violence isn't just because of guns.
What we didn't have was antidepressants. We didn't have children on SSRIs, which there's quite a
Right.
bit of evidence that that is a contributing factor to all the school shootings.
Right.
But no, we had a lot of guns. I had a gun in my locker. I was a responsible gun owner. My gun was not loaded in my locker. But what I did have in my locker on the inside was a piece of paper that I had stuck there with gum, and it said sniping list. And on it was a list of all these boys that I was mad at because they were gross, or they had raped friends at parties, or they had said something sexist. And yet I had them on my sniping list. And I was on the rifle team, and I was a really good shot, and I had a gun in my locker.
Yeah, so you should have been arrested as far as all these people on Twitter are concerned.
This was, I graduated from high school in 1988. I absolutely would have been sent away forever if I were displaying this behavior a few years ago. Like this is crazy, like how much the culture has changed. I was also the editor of my school paper, and people knew who I was. And there was a joke around the school of like, be careful, you don't want to end up on Mary Lou's sniping list.
I mean, I remember writing blog posts. I don't know if this is the same thing, but like when Rob Ford died, I basically was like, it's good that he died. I didn't say somebody should murder him, but I did say, I was like, I don't think we should mourn the death of this guy because he's a horrible person. And by all accounts, he was a horrible person. It sounded like he was abusive, and he was a misogynist, and he was a sexual harasser. He was a crackhead, which makes somebody a bad person. But like it's that kind of thing. It's the idea that because somebody is my political enemy that they're not human. When we don't know these people, and when they're political figures, you kind of do stop treating them as fully human. I mean, that's sort of a normal thing. It's an unfortunate thing, and I think that we should try not to do that. But we're not equipped, like we're not built to be dealing with this amount of people. We're built to be dealing in small communities where we actually know the people that we're engaging with, and so they are actually human to us. We're not built to be dealing with millions of randos on social media, so of course we say horrid things. Like it doesn't feel real.
The kid with the sniping list, she has no history of violence.
She's not really going to snipe you.
No, she's not really going to snipe you. Versus this kid from Bethel Park, which is interesting, like talk about class dynamics and class rivalry. But Bethel Park, where the sniper, the kid who just died trying to assassinate Trump, is from a very rich suburb of Pittsburgh. Butler is a very poor town. Bethel Park is very rich. And he sniped somebody. I mean, so again, I would come back to that of like, are we ever going to get the whole story of who this kid was? Or did you know that he didn't have any ID on him and they couldn't open his phone, but they identified him through DNA? Like he was a dead body. He was like a pile of DNA. And within a couple of hours, they were able to run his DNA through like the Ancestry.com and 23andMe databases, and identified him through his DNA within a couple of hours after they killed him.
This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that they couldn't open his phone.
No, because Edward Snowden says they can open all of our phones. Yeah. And then also it takes a lot longer than a couple of hours to act like get a DNA sample prepared, let alone run it through the databases.
I don't buy any of it, but I hate it when people pretend that they know more than everybody else, because I don't think that I know more than anybody else. I mean, I think that I've read about everything that's gone on a lot, and I've watched a lot of videos, and I've listened to a lot of commentators who I think are smart and who I trust as sources and trust to know what they're talking about. So I do think that I can have like a semi-informed opinion, but you know, it annoys me when people, you know, when this brand of conspiracy theorist, I suppose, when they come in and say, oh, you guys are all such dupes, like, oh, I can't believe you bought into that, you're so stupid. Like, obviously, this is what a bunch of people said to me about, you know, in terms of saying that they thought that Trump had faked his own attempted assassination. They're like, oh, Megan, you're so naive, I can't believe you bought this. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm such a dum-dum. So, but needless to say, I don't want to do that, and I don't want to, you know, I don't know, I have no idea what happened, but it doesn't make any sense to me, and I would not ever put it past the deep state and the Democrats to do something like this, considering all that they have done in decades, but also just over the past few years in terms of, you know, censoring people who could make the Democrats look bad, censoring, you know, the Hunter Biden story on X and everything that they've done to Trump.
Again, at best, this is gross incompetence on the part of the Secret Service. At worst, you know, it was a planned assassination attempt on the part of the deep state. It's looking like it might have been something they knew was going to happen, and they let it happen. I mean, this kid, like how he. Okay, again, I am from Butler, Pennsylvania. I know the farm show grounds. I talked to my brother who still lives in that town, and he would have had to park outside the event, like in the Sheetz parking lot, in this, you know, a convenience store parking lot, and haul a ladder, a long gun, a tripod, and ammunition across 2 small highways.
What?
Yes, he'd have to go across 2 highways, and then prop his ladder up against the roof of this warehouse or this little factory, and go up there twice, you know, hauling his equipment. It doesn't make any sense that this was allowed to happen fewer than 150 yards from where the former president, who everyone knows a lot of people want to kill, who has Secret Service protection, is giving this enormous rally. None of it makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, and he didn't have beefed up protection, which he should have had.
Yeah.
A lot of those women did look bumbling. I didn't love all the commentary about how women shouldn't do this job, but a lot of those women did look bumbling. And to be honest, like, I don't want women protecting me in those situations either. Like, I've recalled doing events, you know, speaking about this gender identity ideology issue, but with other feminists, and being told, oh, we'll have women there to protect you. And I was like, no, I would like hired professional male bodyguards. Like, I don't want a bunch of radical feminists protecting me, because I don't think that women are big and strong enough to protect me if somebody tries to attack me. Like, sorry, that's just a reality. Like, you know, or people who've suggested to me that, oh, well, you know, you box and you lift weights, or maybe you can train in self-defense. I'm like, I can't defend myself at a man who's trying to punch me or murder me. I don't want to have to do that. I don't even want to have to think about that. But look, I don't want little women protecting me in a situation where somebody is trying to kill me.
I think, based on my personal experience, the Secret Service can hire women as snipers. Women can be excellent snipers. There's nothing sex-based about that. Okay. I think that occasionally you find an outlier woman who is very, very large, who could hold a position of bodyguard or be muscle, but it's not most women. I mean, it's not even most men who have the physique to be a good bodyguard, right? Like it's a subset of men who are big enough and strong enough and brave enough to do that job. Like
and
these are
well
people
trained enough,
and
you know,
well
like
trained.
it
Yeah.
doesn't, but similarly, you know, lots of people, lots of men will be like, oh, I'll come protect you, or just we'll get some big men to come protect you. And I'm like, no, I need people trained to know what to look for and to be paying attention and to know what to do if something terrible happens.
And it's a place, it's like sports. We have to look at what are the physical demands of this position. And if there are outlier women who were able to do that as well as the male qualifications for that job, you know, yeah, they could get that position. But like, I don't want a 4'10", 90-pound firefighter coming to try to get me off the second floor if I'm incapacitated and need to be carried down stairs. Like I want a big, strong person to do that. Yeah. Like, it's just, yeah. But then there's the question.
So I think he was underprotected, but it's like, well, then did they leave him underprotected on purpose?
I know, right? Well, maybe. And then they had eyes on this sniper. Like their snipers had eyes on the gunman.
They knew that he was up there. Like, I don't understand. They knew that he was up there. They like a whole bunch of people could see that he was up there. Yeah. They told the cops that he was up there. They, you know, they didn't have anybody on the roof because it was sloped. Like, what the hell is going on here?
Right. Like many of the election results in the last few decades, this is a fishy situation and it doesn't add up. And people have a right to have questions about it. And the official story we're getting is not satisfying.
Like, why are we buying a lone gunman story again? This is what I want to know. I was like, didn't we already do this?
Now, I have to say, my brother, he's a conservative Trump supporter in Butler County, he believes it was just incompetence. He said it's like a Keystone Cops situation.
A lot of very smart, trustworthy people believe that it was just incompetence and it was just a crazy guy. And I don't think that they're being stupid or naive.
I can read you.
I sort of think that it's something else, but what do I know?
I love a good, I really, really, really love a good conspiracy theory. So,
of course. Who doesn't?
I know, right? He said, okay, it was a crazy kid who thwarted really bad security because everyone in law enforcement is scared to death to make a decision now. The internal bureaucracy and fear of making wrong decisions leads to no one making any decision. Local police wanted to wait for directions from someone above them. And he might have a point. I think that that's going on as well. As we have a crisis of leadership. No one wants to step up and be a leader because they know their heads on, above the parapet. They're going to get attacked for whatever they do. Maybe he's right. Maybe it was just nobody wanted to do anything. But I think that
it's just so hard for me to buy that. Yeah, considering how much these people know and how much power they have and how much control they have.
Yeah.
Right. There's a bunch of people in the live chat saying that YouTube is deleting all their comments, and they're also continuing to reject my comments as spam. So I don't know, YouTube has detected this stream is potentially spammy and they're turning all of our live chat comments into spam, even mine. The person who's running the stream. So sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on, but it's happening to me also.
So did you see that right before we went on that it was announced that Biden has COVID?
Okay. Like, that's the new I did see something about that, but I couldn't tell if it was a joke or not. Is it not a joke?
It's not a joke. And then
why do all these people keep saying that they have COVID? I'm never going to get over the fact that anybody's getting tested for COVID. Why are you getting tested for COVID? You have a cold and your first thought is better check if it's COVID. I don't understand this. How does this happen? Like what's the thought process there?
Well, it's another complete fishy thing. Like, does Biden have COVID? We were told he had a cold during the debate and that's why he couldn't string a sentence together. What we do know from our observations is that he appears to have rapidly accelerating dementia. And maybe he doesn't have COVID. Maybe he's about to be euthanized, eliminated. But it's
right. So he's going to be what's going to happen. But I mean, that wouldn't benefit the Democrats, because then it would be Kamala Harris, wouldn't it? Like,
I don't know how they're going to get around Harris.
Biden died of COVID, then it would be Kamala Harris, and she's not popular.
Well, they just put out a poll that I question the veracity of, that said that Harris would beat Trump in multiple swing states.
No.
I don't believe it's true. I think she's just not charismatic at all. And as someone who just recently felt the Trump charisma, like for the first time in the whole saga, I see the charisma, I see the showmanship.
Yeah.
Like, no, she doesn't have anything like that. She's kind of anti-charismatic. People who want to like her are repulsed by her. They can't really let her run. So I don't know how they're going to get around her, because they've been marketing her as a Black woman, even though before she wanted to run for president, she marketed herself as an Indian American woman. She's now a Black woman, and it will be very hard to bypass her, but maybe she'll want to spend more time with her family. Maybe they'll pay her off.
Or Kamala, like, I don't know where they would go from
I think
there.
they were talking Newsom, but Elon Musk just kind of kneecapped Newsom because he it's very exciting. Like, it's become very exciting of watching the power plays happening. I feel like it's, like people jostling for the throne or something going on.
I've never been so interested in American politics in my life. I know.
It's like a Roman Empire-esque saga we're witnessing. So Elon Musk, in response to Gavin Newsom passing legislation saying the schools will keep children's gender identities and medicalization around gender secret from their parents, Elon Musk just pulled SpaceX from California. It's an enormous economic blow to California. So he's moving it to Texas. So he just kneecapped Newsom. I don't think Newsom can recover from that. They were talking Gretchen Whitmer, which is interesting because she was like the original COVID totalitarian, and where she wouldn't let people buy gardening supplies. She really locked that state down hard at the beginning. Then they had that fake kidnapping plot against her. I don't think she could do it. I don't know who they would put in there. Pete Buttigieg, maybe. He's like a cute gay guy with kids. I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I liked Trump's VP pick. I know that a lot of people didn't, but I sort of think that's a good thing, because apparently JD Vance is unpopular in Washington, which I think is great, because I think Washington is skeezy.
Yeah,
I think I like it. Like, I like he's young. I thought his book was very good. He's connected to the working class. He's a veteran. People who know him seem to like him, and regular people that I know, like people who I've interviewed for my podcast, know him like on a friend level.
I really liked his book a lot, and I
thought it was amazing. I remember reading it and then asking my friends if they'd read it, because I was like, "Have you guys read this book? It's really good." And them having like a politicized opinion about it, which I was surprised about, because I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to like this book, and it turned out that I wasn't. Like, oh, I don't know, I don't trust him. I think he's trying to. And I was like, what? Oh, I thought this was a cool read and an important story to tell.
I think he has a very American story. This is what I like. I never thought I'd be at this place in my life, but I am enjoying a revitalization of the American story of USA. And he's a working class kid who made good. He it's not.
Yeah, he struggled out of the worst circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, he had an incredibly abusive childhood.
Yeah.
And they had no money. He had to go live with his Mima. And, they also were poor. And he managed to escape and go to college. And, he was raised by this very, very, very strong tough woman, which I think is cool also, but he overcame the worst circumstances to be very successful, and now he's the VP pick, and all these people are shitting all over him, including conservatives and Republicans. Like there's a lot of conservatives and Republicans that didn't like.
Well, the military contracting industry doesn't like him because he's an anti-war veteran. He's very much American first. Let's stop bleeding our treasury with these foreign wars. We need to focus on securing our borders and keeping our citizens safe. So he's interesting that way. I like that he's a vet. I was really hoping Trump would pick Tulsi Gabbard or even Vivek. I thought he would be more interesting. I don't dislike, I don't like any politicians very much. I'm more watching the show now and thinking, oh, this is a good plot twist. And as someone who grew up in, a similar town to the one JD Vance grew up in, I have like skin in the game for him. He's like, I'm team JD Vance because of that. I don't like how people are lying about him. I see all over Facebook and Twitter that he told women to stay in marriages even if they're abusive, which is a completely out of context interpretation of what he actually said. He was giving a speech and somebody asked him what he thought about divorce and how he had written about how his grandparents had a violent relationship and then they worked it out and stopped being violent to each other, and that sometimes it's worth it to work it out. And he doesn't think people should just be throwing away their marriages because it hurts children. And people interpret that as him telling women to stay in abusive situations.
Of course, that's how they interpret that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's also getting criticized for criticizing Trump, which I think is really weird because I see that as a positive thing. Like I think that's great that this is someone who is critical of Trump and has now decided to support Trump. And I think it's great that Trump would choose somebody, because what the Democrats and the left are always saying about Trump is that he only keeps yes men around him because he's this ego maniac, and he replaces everyone around him with yes men so nobody can challenge him, and that makes him dangerous. And just generally like a bad guy. But he's chosen as his VP somebody who was openly critical of him, and I don't understand at all why that's a bad thing. I think that that's a great thing. Like you want somebody who is like a rah Trump supporter no matter what all along. I don't think that's good. Yeah, I don't really understand why that's like a negative thing, honestly, but that seems to be one of the big criticisms.
I'm hoping we could get an administration that can stabilize the world. And and that is where I'm, I've changed a lot too. And I'm leaning toward, kind of Barry Weiss's perspective that it's important for the world, for the U.S. to be a strong international presence. And we are not right now. We are so weak. Again, our president is literally senile, and that is profoundly destabilizing for the entire world. But he was probably about to die of COVID, which is, it's so surprising that he has COVID again. What is this, the third time? When he specifically told us, if you get this vaccine, you won't get COVID. But apparently it wasn't true.
I've never been able to figure out what these people, whenever I say, well, the vaccine didn't work, and they say it did work. It saved millions from death. And first of all, how do you know that? How do you know that they would have died had they not taken the vaccine? But also, it didn't work because people keep getting COVID, and they're like, yeah, but they're getting COVID and they're not dying. It's like, okay, well the unvaccinated are also not dying of COVID.
Right, because COVID has mutated into an endemic virus that is less lethal than the flu. Like it's Mother Nature worked her way with this virus, and Omicron is what saved millions of lives. Like that particular mutation, which mutated the coronavirus out of any perceived protection from the vaccine. It's just so crazy. So crazy what people believe about it. But we do know Biden had many press events where we saw him getting shots put in his arm, and now he's got COVID again, which I think is the way they're going to take Biden out of the race. But I don't know who they'll put in. That's such a good question. Who do you think they'll put in?
It didn't occur to me that they were going to take Biden out of the race. I don't think that they're going to take Biden out of the race. I mean, you might be right, but
George Clooney said, I mean, Hollywood turned on Biden. George Clooney came out and said Biden needs to resign. George Clooney is good friends with Obama and sort of a mouthpiece for what Obama wants. And, you know, that's pretty mainstream. That's big Democratic establishment. A lot of people within the party are saying Biden needs to be removed.
And I think it would be good for them to do that, but I don't want them to do that because I want Trump to win.
In the last 24 hours, no, I don't think they could put someone in who's going to beat Trump.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, at this point,
I don't know who they have. Like, I don't know if they could pull somebody out of the lab that we've never seen, like some like charismatic.
I can't think of anyone,
no, I can't think of anyone they have.
I mean, and I don't know enough about who an option would be. I don't know that much about American politics that I could even imagine who they would choose. If anybody has any questions or comments that they want me to see, please use the super chat. I've been trying to keep an eye on the live chat, but I haven't been able to pay very close attention. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I do not know why YouTube is spamming all of our live chat comments.
It's so weird.
Haven't gained any subscribers in 3 years, according to YouTube. So I don't much trust what they're doing on their end. I went, what's going on, babe? Sorry, Adelita keeps barking at a ghost. There's a ghost in here with us during the stream, I think. Sorry, scary. But when I first started my YouTube channel, it was during COVID. It was kind of just after I started a YouTube channel just after I got banned from Twitter. At the end of 2018? Jesus Christ. And then I started the same drugs at the very beginning of COVID, and I got a lot of subscribers right away. And then at some point during COVID, I think as a result of my opinions about COVID, I stopped getting subscribers ever, and my channel hasn't grown at all in like 2 years. The same thing happened to my Instagram account. My Instagram account does not grow ever. I only lose followers on Instagram. Facebook cut me off at 10,000 followers about 2 or 3 years ago also, and I can't gain even one follower. My posts on Facebook don't actually go anywhere. You know, maybe 10 people see them or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's all very mysterious. I find, I mean, the way that they're going after Elon Musk, I find so crazy and scary. You know, they're really, really, really intent on destroying X, because I think that it's the only platform that doesn't go along with what the deep state wants and what the Democrats want. That seems so obvious to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting time watching the power players. And Musk is definitely a power player. He's one of the richest men in the world, if not the richest. And it's so funny. He's very similar to Trump, that he knows how to play the populace, because not that long ago, I had people on the left coming after me on my Facebook post when I was criticizing Elon Musk for polluting the stratosphere with all these freaking satellites. Like, when I go stargazing in the dark sky areas, all I see are satellites going past. There's so much space pollution, so much of it from this man. And I was criticizing his rocket launch of all his toys and things. And all these lefty guys were like, you just don't like him because he's successful. How dare you criticize Elon Musk? He's going to save the world with the electric cars. All those people now hate Elon Musk because their political partisans, and Musk started playing to the other side, where all of these right-wing guys who hated Elon Musk because he was a tree hugger who made electric cars now think he's the greatest savior ever. And really, he's a ruling class man who's trying to shape the world. And do I agree with the way he wants to shape the world more than other ruling class men at this time? Yeah, in some ways I do, but he's not, I don't think he's a great person.
I mean, I don't like that I'm still banned from having a subscribe button on Twitter.
Yeah.
There's still like weird things. Like I think that Posey's like shadow banned still on Twitter.
CJ Hopkins as well.
Right.
And Musk refused to release evidence that would have helped CJ Hopkins in his trial.
But I was trying to find this post from Michael Schellenberger, who said the European Union is forcing big tech companies to secretly engage in mass censorship. So Google and Facebook are going along with it. Only Elon Musk's X is resisting. So Musk had tweeted, the European Commission offered X an illegal secret deal. If we quietly censored speech without telling anyone, they wouldn't fine us. The other platforms accepted the deal. X did not. So now the EU is planning to punish X with these massive fines up to 6% of global revenue, which is a lot. And, the desperation with which, again, they're going after him and X, I think says a lot, because I think we know exactly who Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube are censoring and why. Like, I know why I'm not allowed to gain new followers, why my post can't go anywhere, why I can't get any new subscribers here. It's, because of the things that I've said about the jab. I think for YouTube, it's because of my ongoing criticisms of Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government and their control over what is, over social media and what Canadians can see online. The government has control over that. They have the power to force YouTube and other platforms to take things down that they don't like. I think the gender identity stuff, obviously, I've been dinged and censored into infinity. Instagram's been suspending all my accounts like once a week for the past month. I'll wake up and all of my accounts will be suspended for some reason, and I have to go through this whole rigmarole to prove my identity to get all of my accounts back.
Wow.
So the only place where that isn't really happening to me is on X. Who knows what else is going on there with the algorithm or why I'm still banned from getting a subscribe button. I suspect that's maybe somebody who works for X who decided early on that I wasn't going to be allowed, and that's just stuck in there like that ever since. It's been like it's been over a year since I applied for a subscribe button on X, and everyone else has one but me. But it's just really scary to me, because it's like if they take down X, then what do we have? I mean,
I know,
thank God
that's
for
terrifying.
Substack. I don't know where else I would be
Rumble.
putting my work, but I don't have a following on Rumble. I'd have to start from scratch on Rumble would be next to impossible. I mean, X is also like, X is where I followed this whole situation with the attempted assassination. I mean, it's not like anybody was following it on Facebook or Instagram. I didn't go look in the mainstream media. It didn't even occur to me to go look in the mainstream media to see what was happening, because I was seeing everything on X. I think
I get my
it's
news
quite
from
important. I don't necessarily love Elon Musk. He seems only interested in what men have to say. I think that's inarguable. But
exactly. Yeah, and he's a creeper, and he's got all these, techno babies that he's, made through reprotech and surrogacy, and he's an oligarch.
But he created a free speech platform that I think,
Yeah.
and he's holding strong, and I think that that's great. And I think that Starlink, I think I'm going to invest in Starlink. It's quite expensive, but if everything goes down,
yeah,
Starlink will still be an option, and then you're not beholden to one of these, I don't know. I don't trust, and I don't know what the companies are in the US, but in Canada, it's like TELUS and Shaw, who own everything, including the media, and they're getting kickbacks from the government. So,
right. Yeah, it's just an interesting time watching the powers shift, and in many ways, like I'm glad Elon Musk has done a lot of the things that he's done. I also think that it's foolish to really trust that he's a man of the people. He wants to make a chip that can read our thoughts.
Well, I think he's still one of the elites is the problem. And I think that if shit goes down, then he'll be able to go to his bunker and the rest of us are going to be screwed. I mean, I guess I watched Tim Dillon's interview with Alex Jones, his emergency podcast with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones thinks that the world is over. But he was like, you guys are all going along with your lives, but it's World War III and the world's over and this is it for us. And I was like,
I know. Yeah, but Alex Jones has been saying that for so long.
Right.
I mean, Alex Jones was convinced that he convinced everybody to spend all their money prepping for Y2K because the world was going to be over. That was 25 years ago, 24 years ago.
I haven't followed him for very long or very closely. I mean, I listen to his interviews on Rogan sometimes. I obviously listen to this interview on Tim Dillon. I know that he's been right about a few things. Like, didn't he predict 9/11?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that Alex Jones, I think he speaks the truth sometimes. I think he's also very paranoid. I also think his whole brand is freaking people out and about the apocalypse, and about how bad everything is. And my take is the world has always been a crazy, corrupt, unstable place. And this is the version of it we're living now. And we are at a time where the powers are shaking. And I agree with a lot of what Alex Jones is saying, but I don't think it means the world's over. But he's been trying to convince everyone that the monetary system is about to collapse. And maybe it is. Like, I've been convinced the monetary system is about to collapse for decades. And that's why I don't have very much money saved for retirement. And maybe it would have been better for me not to be listening to people like Alex Jones,
Well, I know that's ironically, that has made me feel a lot more secure in the fact that I don't own anything or have any money, because I'm like, well, that could just easily disappear in a minute, and then I would have done all this work to save up all this money that the bank is just going to take from me, or even to buy property that they can just take from you. Like in Canada, I don't think you really own your land in Canada.
Well, I don't think you do.
I think the crown can still take it from you if they want to.
Yeah. I mean, and all through human history, peasants get their land taken, people who aren't ruling. And the ruling class take each other's lands. They take all countries from each other. So the world is always unstable. It's always profoundly unstable, and no empire persists, and no system of governance persists forever, and no civilization persists forever. Things are definitely shifting, which is why I like this resurgence of USA, and coming back to the American foundational story of, we're going to beat the odds. We can do this. We are the land of the free and the home of the brave. I'm like, I'm ready for that narrative to be woven in again, rather than it's all over and we suck and we may as well just hang it up. So I'm more invested in that right now as a cultural narrative.
Well, I definitely want to support this party that is like rah about individual rights, individual property rights, individual gun rights. individual rights in general, free speech rights. I mean, I feel more secure about them not taking away those rights than the party who thinks that those rights are, dog whistle for the Nazis.
Right. Exactly. Right. Civil rights are racist. It's just insane. It's such an insane
They're right. They're anti-trans.
Oh. Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah. Did we figure it out? We figured out who did the shooting and how and all of the.
I don't feel that I've figured anything out.
No.
But I'm glad to talk about it nonetheless. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Good night, Megan. Megan's going tonight to bed. A bunch of people in the live chat are going to bed now. Did we miss JD Vance's and Trump's speech at the convention while we were streaming?
Possibly.
They were coming tonight, so if we haven't, I'll watch. But
and I've been listening to Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern's take on it every morning. I've been listening to that as I do all my morning puttering, and it's a really good commentary on the convention. I always enjoy Matt Taibbi's take on things. I've really enjoyed him as a journalist since he came on the scene, I think during the Bush administration. And Walter Kern is hysterical and brilliant. So
is that on Rocket? Is that on Matt Taibbi's podcast on
Substack? Yeah, Substack is the link, and there's a YouTube and a Rumble link to it.
Okay, I'll listen to those ones also. I was trying to figure out if this speech happened, but I can't. Anyway, thanks for everyone for tuning in. This has been Where Are All the Women? And we stream live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Mary Lou Singleton is on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton and on Twitter, X at ML_Singleton. Her website is Enchanted Family Medicine, and I am also on X at Megan E. Murphy, and I am on Substack at meganmurphy.ca. And you can buy my very rude t-shirt at fourthwall.com on my shop, which is the same drugs shop at fourthwall.com. I didn't say that link properly, and I'm not going to, but if you go to my website at meganmurphy.ca and click the shop tab and click on one of the shirts there, it'll take you to the site, but I'm also going to post it in the live chat. And yeah, if you guys have questions about the stem cell treatment I got and want to go to Tijuana and get a stem cell treatment, or actually you can do it also in Puerto Vallarta. They can do the treatments here. I think sometimes they can even do them in Sayulita. They can do it in Guadalajara. The link is cbstemcells.com. And yeah, tell them that I sent you. I've had a very positive experience, so I do recommend it. And I'm probably forgetting something. Like and subscribe. I mean, it's not going to make any difference, but
right.
I shouldn't say that. I've been trying slowly but surely to get these streams up as podcasts on Substack and also on Spotify, but I'm perpetually about 2 or 3 weeks behind, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm working on it. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Crime Tech Explorer. I've loved your content for years. Thank you. I'm getting distracted by the live chat. Thank you, Mary Lou. It was great to see you as always. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Take care.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Good night.